Setting boundaries is the problem. Hey, stop being a people pleaser and take control of your life. Teach others how to treat you. Teach yourself how to respect your own boundaries. Teach others to respect your own boundaries. That's the only solution. So let's get to know what are boundaries and how we're going to set our boundaries and how are we going to take control of our life. In this video, we are going to discuss about that. Hello bestie, I'm in an emergency and I need shillings 200. I know you're a good friend and you never fail. Will you please lend me shillings 200? Hello, why are you not coming to visit me as your mother? What is that kind of a job you are doing that you cannot even set a time for me and come and visit me? Now listen, I need you to come for a whole week. Yeah, okay. Hello girl, are we going to see a movie right now? Hello, we are having a meeting at 4 p.m. and you are going to meet with the church elders. I know it's an emergency, but please avail yourself. Hello Yoni, we are going out with the girls right now. Are you going to join us? Okay, let me dress up. I'm going to come right away. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to send right away. Okay, let's eat that. No problem, we can eat pilau for now. Okay, let's watch a movie. Yes, 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 yes. So let us now discuss about boundaries and what they are and how they are important into our lives. Boundary is a limit. My own definition of having a boundary is having control of your life, allowing the good things inside and allowing the outside things that are bad out of your life. That means you're taking control of yourself, taking control of your emotions, and taking control of your life. Boundaries helps us not to be people pleasing, but to follow what we love, what we like, what are our values, and everything that concerns us in our lives and where we stand. Now, we have looked at an above example and we have seen what it is to have a life without boundaries. Now, how do we set our boundaries? Setting boundaries can be a huge problem, especially for people like us who are people pleasers and who are afraid to say no to others. First, you have to acknowledge that life is your responsibility and not any other person. That you are taking control of yourself, control of your emotions, taking control of your life. What are the signs that you are not setting boundaries or you lack boundaries in your life? Number one, you say yes even if you mean no. In your mind you want to say no, but because of other reasons you will say yes. Number two, you are afraid that others are going to kick you out or not love you, not be friends with you because of setting boundaries or because of having a contrary opinion. Number three is that you compromise your values for the sake of others. You compromise your time because of others. You compromise your money and everything that you have for the sake of others and not yourself. You do so much for people until you feel overwhelmed or as if nobody is listening to you because you are always available for people. You are there for everybody who needs you, anyone who wants to have a time and who needs to bring their problems to you, to bring their work to you. You are always available to them. Being available to people does not mean that they love you or you are being a good friend to them. But this just means that you don't have your own time, you don't have boundaries with yourself, and you don't have boundaries to others. So how do we set boundaries in our lives? How do we set limits in our lives? How do we teach others how to treat us? Number one, we have to communicate our feelings. Instead of saying, will you please allow me to study now? Instead, I will say, I want to study now. Let us meet after studying. With that, you are communicating about your feelings and not trying to make another person make decisions for yourself. Taking responsibility. If I want to do this, I will do that instead of saying, will you? Or taking it to another person. Number two, be assertive. In whatever way that you have, in whatever decision that you have to make, letting another person know it's important to be assertive. Don't say a no while still having a space for saying yes. You're not being assertive. Being assertive means that you are not compromising and you are not allowing anybody to compromise with your decision. Number 3, don't explain and don't justify. If somebody is not okay with you having a boundary or setting a limit to you help with them, for example, don't explain yourself too much. If I don't feel like watching a movie right now, I will just say, no, I don't want to watch a movie right now. I want to do something else. That's important, and that is enough. Having a lot of explanation will put you in a state that another person may manipulate you to make you understand why they need you, why they need your time, why they need you to help them, but don't explain. Some misconceptions about setting boundaries is that, number 1, if I set my boundaries, I'm being selfish. No. Setting boundaries does not mean that I don't allow others in my life or I don't allow others to come into my life. But having a boundary at what I'm going to do, for example, right now, is that I'm taking control of my life, and whoever is around me, whether it's friend, family, or a colleague or a classmate, I'm just getting a word saying that I'm taking control of myself and I'm taking control of my life. Number 2, boundaries are a sign of disobedience. No. If, for example, I have a boundary with a parent, for example, that does not mean that I don't value them, does not mean that I don't respect them. It just means that to take control of myself. Number 3, boundaries are meant to hurt others. Another person reacts by being angry about you setting a boundary, and they refrain from you and they put you aside. That means they're not allowing yourself to be who you are. They just want to manipulate you and put them in a cocoon of manipulation and taking advantage of you. So even if they react in anger, that does not mean that you have to comply with their life without boundaries. Boundaries brings a feeling of guilt. Sometimes when you are in a journey of developing boundaries, you may feel like you are guilty of something. For example, if I am responsible Christian, for example, and I have so much meetings coming in my schedule, I may feel guilty of not going for a certain meeting. Or if I'm in a group discussion as a student, I may feel guilty of not attending the group discussion because it's my responsibility as a group member to be active at all times and to participate in all activities. But don't have to feel guilty for setting boundaries. If a friend calls you and asks you if you are available for a birthday party right now, you can be guilty of, I won't be available for you. You won't take me as a friend again because I am a good friend and I don't want to fail you. But again, you don't compromise. Set your boundaries. If they don't tell you on time, why attend? If you want to set boundaries and healthy boundaries to your friends, it's good sometimes to do boundaries, but also allow yourself to adjust. Step number 1 in setting boundaries with friends is having your own limit. Having your own limits helps you to take control of what you want and what you don't want. Take time for yourself, take time with yourself, know what you want in life, know what are your values. Get that time and you have written all your values. Step number 2 is communicating to them. For example, I don't want to be interrupted when I'm doing some serious studies. So I'll tell my friends that I'm not available. For example, are you going to come for a lunch with friends right now? I'll just tell them, I'd love to, but right now I am in the library. If you had told me a little bit earlier, I would not mind putting it in a schedule and I would join you. You are being specific to what you want and giving an alternative to what would happen. We're just teaching them how to treat you and not to manipulate you in any way. Number 3, you have to be assertive in whatever things that you say. Let them know when you say yes, it means that you say yes. Let them know when you say a no, you mean a no and not otherwise. 4, work on your guilt. You may be feeling as if you're not a good friend for making boundaries, but that's your problem and not theirs. When a friend called me and asked for 200 shillings, I didn't have extra money. Instead of complying, yes, I would love to help, but it is going to affect affect my budgeting. So in this case, what I'll do, I'll tell them I'd love to help, yes, but right now I'm not in that position. I hope that you are going to get help from somewhere else. So let's look at setting boundaries with a spouse in a relationship or in a marriage. And setting boundaries in a marriage, it's important to own your feelings. If I feel bad about my spouse, I'll take ownership that the problem is not him, but the problem is me. I feel that I am hurt, but only that he doesn't find my time. Getting to own your feelings. Step number 2, which is communicating your own needs and communicating your own feelings. For example, if my partner is not having time for me, go to him, tell him, I know that you are too busy, I know that you have a lot of work, but I feel lonely. I feel that we should set a time for us. To just telling him or making him aware of your needs or your feelings. Number 3 is that you have to deal with your emotions. If somebody else is hurting you, or if somebody else is doing something that you are not happy with, don't think that they will automatically know that you're not good, or they will know that you need this at this moment. Remember, your partner is not a prophet. And so you need to deal with your emotions. You need to let them know when you're hurt, when you're happy, what you need. Deal with your emotions. Let them know what you want. Number 4, don't try to manipulate them or control them. Remember that you cannot change another person, but you can change yourself. So that means you don't have to control them. For example, if they are yelling at you, instead of saying, you won't yell at me once again, you are being controlling. Instead, you would say, if you continue yelling at me, I will walk away from you. You are setting a consequence of what will happen if your spouse continues yelling at you. Let's look at boundaries at work. In the workplace, you may find a colleague giving you a lot of work, letting you being his or her savior whenever he has a lot of work, or whenever he needs to have his own time, he gives all the work to you. And instead of saying no, you burden yourself when the other person's responsibilities are being taken care of by you. And remember, in this case, nobody's taking care of your responsibilities. In this case, you're not setting boundaries with your colleagues at work. For example, you spend overtime and don't have time for yourself or time for your family. In that case, you have to set your own boundaries. You have first to take responsibility of your work. You have to be responsible for what you are employed to do in that place, or what is your purpose in that workplace. Number 2, you have to set clear limits to your employer on what you should do, what you didn't sign up to do. You have to be clear, and if that seems so difficult, you can find a support system or communicate through the HR in that case. If saving a colleague when he wants to have his own time, you don't become a savior in that case. Communicate to him or her. If he needs assistance, you have to go to the boss and tell him, I have a lot of work and so I need some assistance. If somebody comes to tell you that he needs assistance and you're not available or you're not cool with it, you can, for example, say, I'm sorry that you have not finished your work on time, but I feel that you need to ask for assistance from the employer so that he can reduce your workload, or you are going to set deadlines at which you're going to finish your work. It's your responsibility and I'm not going to do that. In this case, note that you don't need to explain anything or to justify. Whenever you justify, you are making this person to take advantage of you and to manipulate you in one or another. If they keep insisting, just get off and don't continue the conversation. Allow your emotions outside work to affect your productivity in work. Don't seek people's validation in work. It's important that you solve them outside your work. The same case, don't put work problems, don't allow them to affect you out of work. Let's now discuss about most and the best important part of setting boundaries, and that is setting boundaries with yourself. Even if you set boundaries with others, it's equally important to set boundaries with yourself. Some people don't set boundaries with how much they eat, with how much money they spend, they save. They don't keep time in whatever place they are going, in whatever meeting they have, always late. Even if they wake up early, don't have boundaries at what time they will spend scrolling or social media. Even if they have a task to do, they still postpone. Some don't have discipline in taking care of themselves and educating them and such like things. Now, it is very important to set boundaries for yourself. Even if you want to hit that snooze button and don't wake up forever, setting boundaries with yourself helps you to take control of your life. It's important to, number one, address your needs. If you have a need that needs attention, for example, you need help and assistance from others, it's important to take care of that need. If you have 8 hours of sleep, and if you don't have 8 hours of sleep, you are tempted to hit the snooze button and continue sleeping. It's important to take care of that need. For example, you can schedule having the 8 hours of sleep at night and still wake up healthy and feeling better for yourself. And when you're taking care of your needs, allow yourself to get assistance from others. Also, allow yourself to fall. Number two, allow yourself to fail. Don't avoid failure. It's important to recognize failure, and whenever you fail at something you had planned, it's important to accept it and to address it and accept it. Don't run away from it. And in that case, use consequences as a teacher. For example, if you get to class late and your teacher sends you out of class, use that as a lesson. Don't feel guilty, don't blame yourself, don't beat up yourself, but be gentle on yourself. Take that as a teacher and take responsibility that next time you're going to do 1, 2, 3. Also, surround yourself with people who are loving and supportive. This is very important because setting boundaries does not just involve having the willpower, it involves also having a support system, a person who can understand you and give you the feedback you need in a gentle way. For example, sometimes you may not know when you have a boundary problem with yourself, and getting a feedback in a gentle way from another person, it's equally important. Now, when getting to set boundaries, you're going to experience a lot of challenges. For example, others may feel angry that you are setting a boundary on them. In this case, you have to recognize that anger in another person does not have to affect you. And if another person is loving to you, they will respect you, respect who you are, and respect you having a boundary. Don't use anger, feel empathetic on that person and compromise your boundaries. No, that does not mean that you have to compromise on your boundaries. Number two, people are going to have resistance if you are going to start setting boundaries on them. If your friends are getting used to you not setting any boundaries to them, setting boundaries will seem a burden to them, and so you are going to get resistance from others. Number three, others are going to try and manipulate you and seem as if you are doing something wrong. That does not have to affect you. You have to be consistent in whatever you do. You have to take yourself gently. You have to still stick on whatever thing that you want. Remember to keep practicing. Setting boundaries is a journey and not a one-day thing. Thank you so much for staying connected in this video. And if you find it helpful, let me know. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.